Hey everyone, it's Micah the ADHD Stitcher. And I did have on my video, my last floss tube, a couple of people who said they would be interested in seeing how I finished this frame like this to look kind of aged. So I am going to do a little tutorial to show you what I did. Now, I'm no professional tutorial giver, so give me some grace. And I will speed it up on the slow and repetitive parts so that you don't have to sit there and slowly watch me paint or sit there for an hour to watch paint dry. So the first thing that you want to do with your piece is look at it and see if there are pieces that need to be sanded. You can see there are like some little kind of the little stringy pieces. You do want to sand those off because it can get hard to paint around them, and they're really noticeable and they stick off weird. And while you still may want it to look kind of beat up, this will just make it easier to paint. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. And you'll notice me turning this. This is a sanding block that has just different textures on different sides that help you to get the finish that you want. Okay, so after you get that sanded off, you're going to want to, kind of give it a blow or a brush off to make sure that you have off the little sandy, like sawdust pits. That's the word. Also, I forgot to mention, I got this at Michael's. I don't remember. It was in one of the little baskets towards the front, so it was one of the cheaper pieces. It was probably like $1 or $1.50, something like that. But, and the reason I have this plastic bowl here is because I like to just get it all done at once, each coat, and not have to have it laying on the table and then do a side and then do another side and then rotate it over and all that kind of stuff. So I like to have something I can set it on so that I can paint to the edge and then just set it there and let it dry and not have to deal with all that. So the first coat that I did with the other was black, and I just used this apple barrel black matte acrylic paint that I got at Walmart. You can get it really anywhere, just this kind of craft paint. And I like to get the matte, especially if I want it to look older or aged. I like it better to not have that sheen. So this is I just put press and seal over the thing I used last time, just because I had mixed up my gray. Because that's what I did. I used the black and just added a little white to it to get my gray because I didn't have any gray. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is, like I said, the black paint. Now, my piece is going to go on this back, so there's no need to paint this whole back. But I will paint right around the edges just in case it doesn't, after I cut it and mount it or however I get it in there, that just in case it doesn't perfectly line up, I won't feel like I need to redo it because I can see the wood. So the first thing I do is just kind of go around that edge, and you'll see I press it into that edge just to make sure that it gets covered. Okay, now that I've got that done, I'm going to start to work my way up the edges. I try to do this in a way that I can still hold it without getting my hands covered. So what I usually like to do is just pick like a small spot near a corner and make that kind of my holding spot that I don't put paint on. And I'm sorry about the shaking. My cats have decided it's time to play on the chair that the camera's mounted on. So one thing you'll notice me doing is going in one direction and going back in the other. That's a good way to make sure that you get it into like any of the little imperfection divots and things like that. That'll make sure that that paint gets down in there. And on this first coat with the black, sorry, now my cat is playing in the blinds. Hey, Claudia, stop. You'll notice on this first coat, I am making sure I get good coverage because even though it's going to be distressed, I don't want the color of the new wood showing through once I distress it, because that would obviously not look old. You'll also see that I go with, if I easily can, go with the grain of the wood. But either way, once I pick a little section, I go in the same direction as I paint. That just makes the paint look better in the end. Which, of course, on this first coat that's under, it's going to be under other coats, so it's not as important. But it just helps everything to be laid down smoother, so you don't have like globs of paint and things like that. And this is the corner that I will try to hold it by. So now that I've gotten all of that done, I'm going to go back around and make sure I don't have too much kind of going over the edge that will dry. Sorry, now my dog's in here coughing. Yeah, I do have a dog. Y'all haven't seen him. But I go back over that. No. I go back over that to make sure it doesn't dry in any little globs or anything like that. Yeah, y'all don't see my dog because I've been filming late at night most of the time, and the dog goes to bed pretty early. He will come and stare at you until you go let him in the bedroom so he can get in his kennel and go to sleep. He's an old man. He's 14, so he is set in his ways and wants his naps. But so now I'm just going to go around and get these outside edges, and you'll see, like I said before, I want to carry it down slightly over that bottom edge, but that's just so that none of the wood shows. I'm not going to paint the whole back because nobody's going to see the back. Oops, sorry. Okay, so now that we're to this part, I kind of try to just hold it the best I can. I mean, I'm going to get paint on me. That's just part of it. But I just try to hold it the best way I can. So now I'm just going to go around and double check that I don't have any big blobs of paint, that everything has some paint on it. And then one important thing is that you read the bottle of paint for how long you're supposed to wait between coats. With this kind, I think it's about an hour. Yeah, let dry 1 hour between coats. So now I will let that dry. and then we will come back and do the next part. Okay, so this has had time to dry completely, and so now I'm going to do a layer of gray. Sorry, I gotta open. For this gray, I did not have any, so I used white craft paint just like the black. I used mostly white and then added a little black at a time until I got it to the color I wanted. That's when you're mixing colors, that's the easiest way to do it, is start with the light and work your way back, because you can do it just a little bit at a time if it's going to be on the lighter edge. Or if you're going to go for a darker color, then you want to start with the dark and then add a little light at the time. But okay, so what I do for this layer does not have to be a full coat. I kind of brush it on a little roughly so that should a big section of it show through, it will look kind of antiqued. Plus, it doesn't have to have full coverage because not a ton of it will show through. So I get the paint on the brush and then I wipe that off so that there's still some paint on there, but it's not really saturated, because you don't want full coverage for this. And you just lightly brush that on there. And you kind of just continue that process until you get it the way you like it. And so remember that if you're doing it the way that I'm doing it, this isn't going to be a final coat. You're going to be putting another coat of black over this. So it does not have to look super good. Okay, so now I've got that gray layer on, and as you can see, like if you're looking at just from this angle, that looks, you know, that might be a good look if that's what you're going for, just to leave it like that, with just kind of a dry brush technique over it. But I want it to be black with some gray showing through, so I am going to go back over it with the black. But so there you can see how you do that next layer, which, like I said, could also be your final layer. So now we're going to let this dry, and then we will come back and do the last layer. Okay, so now this has had time to dry, and we are going to put on the final coat. For the final coat, we're going to cover this with black, but it, once again, much like this, does not have to be a solid coat, because we want some of this to show through, because to make it look older. So we'll start with a little bit on the brush. I always wipe it off on the side just to get some of that extra off. So as you can see, I am definitely covering more with the black, but I'm just not worrying about making sure every little spot is covered. Okay, so as you can see, we've got that all painted, and as I said, I'm not worrying about making sure that absolutely everything is covered, because we're going to scuff it up here in just a little bit. So now we will let this dry. Okay, so now this has completely dried. All the coats are on it, and what I'm going to do is take that same sanding block that I used before, and I'm just going to rough up all of the paint a little bit. I like to make sure to hit the corners pretty good where it would see natural wear and tear, 'cause, you know, the point is to make it old. And I'm going to try not to talk while I sand in case the sanding sounds horrible, because I'll speed up this part. Okay, so now you want to kind of wipe it down. Of course, I don't have a cloth over here. So you want to wipe it off to get any residue off of there. Now you can see right there I went a little deeper than I would have ideally liked. You can see the wood color under there. That will be alright. So now it's all aged up. I don't know how well you can really see. Let me bring this lamp over closer so you can maybe get a... Ooh, there we go. So now I've got it aged the way I want. So what I will do... Sorry. What I will do now is take this piece, which is the piece that is going to go in here. I'll iron it just to make sure, which it's pretty flat right now. I'll lint roll it to get cat hairs off. Lovely. And then what I'll do is take either, I'm not sure which one I'm going to use yet, either foam core board or the sticky back board. And I'll cut, obviously. Let's pull that in a little bit more. But I'll wrap it on the board, tuck the edges around the back. But that's the thing with the board, is I will make it the width of this interior. Obviously I want it a little smaller because the fabric wrapping around it will make it a little thicker, but it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. It's fine. This is supposed to look old anyway. And one thing that you can do, if you want it to be kind of puffy, you could take foam core board and put batting under it. If you have any batting, you could put a layer or two of batting or felt. Sometimes, like I have a bunch of, at least a yard of some just plain white felt, and sometimes I'll put that under something and it will kind of boost it up the way batting would too. Or if you really wanted it puffy, obviously you could use some polyfill or something like that. But you can also just do it flat on the other board and put it in there like that. One of the other things that you could do is you could do the inside edges a different color, things like that, if just depending on what kind of look you want. You could also do Crackle. If you can get Crackle Medium at, well, I can get it at my Walmart, I think. At least I used to could. Oh no, actually this came from Hobby Lobby years and years ago. I don't know when this is really old. But this is Crackle Medium. They may have some Crackle stuff at Walmart also. But it's Crackle Medium for acrylic paint. And with that you would paint your bottom layer, then you paint the Crackle over that, and then you paint that top layer of paint. And when you paint that top layer of paint, it will then crackle. So you could also do something like that for these kinds of things. So that's all. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was clear. I haven't rewatched it yet, so we'll see what happens. And if y'all enjoy this, let me know, and we can try to do more things like this in the future. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.